And we're live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, in the past, present, or future, wherever and whenever you are. Welcome to another edition of the Living World of Darkness Changeling 20th venue. Today's scene, we find ourselves in the barony of Queens, in the Queen's Freehold, with, of course, aside from its usual, like, austere sort of setting with its beautiful stained glass windows and whatnot, we have the scent of sandalwood in the air, as almost like incense is almost burning, um, and also that scent of like herbs and medicine within it. Small little features of the other freeholds that have all unified together in one big linked thing. The Queen's Freehold itself now becoming this sprawling sort of like estate. Um, Connecting with the other freeholds, with the Cauldron houses and the Bronx and Manhattan. We find ourselves within one of the courtyards, where one Cararis, keeper of the Diamond Word, and Baroness um, of Manhattan. For some reason, I forgot your character's name for a brief moment. Sorry, but they are meeting for a meeting of that's been a little bit coming to share some information.
So Alice is currently dressed in a soft yellow gown. It's, goes about to knee length, bare shoulders. Going with her recent themes, it has a bit of a poof and flounce to it. She's not decorated in any jewelry, no makeup right now, just her natural self and beauty standing within the freehold.
Mm. Cararis himself makes his way in. He's wearing his usual, like, suit and tie and everything like that. It's nice crimson sort of thing, almost like that strange sort of like pseudo Victorian era sort of like sort of suit set for its brilliant crimson tones. On his on Above his breast is three chimerical pins, holding like these particular particular coat of arms. The first one, the highest one, is Legion's coat of arms. The middle one, still representing his mourning, is the black bar across the shield that was once Maurice's, and of course his own being the lowest one on the thing at this time. But he makes his way in, and he gives his respectful bow to Alice, who is like, Baroness.
Sir Cararis, she says, doing a curtsy.
I trust you are well.
As well as I can be.
Well, I hope, I also trust that you have been shown the hospitality and kindness of the Nunnehy within the freehold. Perhaps our conversation should involve a walk.
She'll nod her head and start walking with him.
I'm glad from you being able to meet me. I'm sorry it's taken so long to make this meeting happen. I've been rather busy. He says, as he sort of takes a moment, he sort of stares off, sort of like almost like glassily for a moment before he blinks his eyes and brings himself back to reality. It's those moments where it's like you're not sleeping well, so you're like you lose track and you come back to yourself. Oh, I've just been on top of our recent nightmare problem. Other matters of duty have had to come to the forefront.
I think we've both been pretty busy with our respective duties in addition to the nightmares.
I've I've actually come this. That's actually one of the main topics of conversation I wish to speak to you about is about the nightmares. I'm not sure how much you are aware of the source of these nightmares.
Mara, and the imbalance with the Baku, right?
Hmm. He nods his head. Um, are you are you aware that there are uh, movements towards trying to fix the problem?
Yes, I was part of one yesterday.
Hmm. He sort of raises an eyebrow. It's like, ah, were you? Then you were involved with meeting with Baku.
I was. I was pretty curious considering how little I knew about him when we first met.
Hmm. Very good. Uh, so then you are aware of the solution.
4 gifts, 4 sorcerers, and not turning his nature into something that provides revolutionary dreams for everyone around the world.
He sort of blinks. He goes, "Well, luckily the ranters aren't involved in that anymore, so I don't think that's too much of a concern."
Except for the fact that William's still involved and he still wants that to happen, only he wants a quote unquote non-violent revolution.
He sort of stops for a moment. I'm sorry. I'm. It's sleep has been something. I'm just making sure I'm not hallucinating what I said. William wanted to do what?
Oh, William took first right to speak to the Baku about whether or not the Baku would be willing to enter an alliance with him to provide dreams of revolution, but peaceful one, and equality throughout the world, changing everyone's dreams into those as a way of freeing them from the dreams of oppression.
Charles is sort of standing there listening to this, and he doesn't blink. He doesn't even move for a moment. I know they said they were starting to walk, but he's like I said. As soon as this was mentioned, he sort of stops and he's just staring off. Like he's not. He's looking at her, but he's like not really looking at her. He's like looking at something past her in the distance of trying to comprehend exactly what he just heard and make sure that he is actually not dreaming. And so William believed that he has the right to shape our dreams.
Um, he used the word duty,
Hmm.
if that's a big difference in English.
Hmm. He says as he sort of thinks about that. Interesting.
Oh, he also used the word responsibility and mission in regards to doing this.
Did he explain why he felt that was the case?
Because all of us have been fighting monsters and nightmares and trying to change the world for a better, but we're all failing, and the world is only getting worse, and there's no actual hope, and Brooklyn wasn't good enough, and unless we get rid of all forms of authority over others, and nobility, and corruption, and non-democratic systems, then we're not truly free and the world's not better. Little steps towards better aren't actually better, apparently. I must be missing something in English, but are actually the same as doing nothing at all. But changing the entire world simultaneously is the only better.
And he does slip into Japanese. He's perfectly fluent, by the way. I'm not going to try and say anything, just so you're aware, so I don't butcher anything. But he goes, well, if Japanese is a little bit lost in the translation, you can speak freely with me. Um, he sort of like says that
She We'll continue that in Japanese. Virtually the same thing. It sounds like, yeah, no. And
Uh-huh. I see. And so William is aware of the situation.
not just aware, he's been actively searching for a way to alter the Baku or Mara. Um, he mentioned that, well, he seemed excited to find out that apparently we were able to alter the Baku's nature, which caused all these problems in the first place when we used those relics on the Ranter base.
Mm. We fell into what I'm going to call a perfect storm of a situation. Um, Based on my research, long ago, Mara and Baku were very much what they were. The true primordial forces of Mother of Nightmares, um, creator of dreams, vice versa, so on and so forth. However, um, certain individuals felt that those of the those born of Nightmare felt that their mother was being humiliated by Baku whenever she was defeated, and so for the love of their mother, they felt that it was their duty to give gifts to her. So they did so. Unfortunately, that threw the balance off. Because of this, the four other individuals went to Baku to give gifts themselves. When they did so, it fixed the balance because 4 gifts for 4 gifts, they were part of this forever. What I determined based on my research is that the gifts given don't, he sort of thinks for a moment, they don't necessarily shape the nature unless they are intended to do that. The gifts that are given must be given freely from the heart and from the truest sense of self of the person. And those things are not taken away, but they are shared between them. And what ultimately happens is that that does have an influence on dreams as they are to a degree. It does shape Baku to a small degree. It's just a matter of whether we are changing its entire nature or whether we are putting forth a gift that we want to see in dreams.
Which is why William was hoping that he could convince 4 sorcerers of his own to step forward and join him.
Hmm. How is he doing with that?
So far, he has himself, and he's hoping that if we don't agree to work with him, that he'll be one of the ones selected to give Baku a gift, regardless.
Sort of nods.
He's strongly hoping.
Strongly hoping. Charles sort of thinks about that. All right. Well, I was given an example of an idea that was proposed, a theory. If someone were to to give a gift in their full beliefs that such that dreams themselves should be rigid and stable and focused, it's like a river, he says. Most people believe that that the dreaming itself, or let's use dawn itself as an example, that dawn is the will of the dreaming, and thus it is this river, this one narrow path that must flow this way. However, what they fail to see is the fact that rivers branch off in other directions, and they find themselves in new areas, new places to give root or to fill, to become lakes, become oceans, become new full dreams. There is no one path. There is no one dream. All things, all possibilities must be available. If what William proposes is something that people decide to accept, then they have to understand that all there will be dreams is just this. There will be nothing else. Just a dream of equality, just a dream of these ideas that he wishes to put in. If that's all that there is, where's everything else? Where's language? Where's hope? Where is ambition or innovation? There's only equality. And there's nothing else.
And everything will be equal because everyone will have nothing. As much as I want to better everyone's life, I mean, I'm not a communist.
I would like to see William strive for his dream. It is his dream. It is something that he should strive for. It's not something he should force upon the dreaming itself.
He doesn't see it as forcing.
Strange.
He sees those other dreams as oppressing.
So he sees his standards as the here-all, be-all.
Well, he's not. I don't think he's that inflexible. I mean, we were able to broker a peace between Manhattan and Brooklyn. And he was somehow able to convince Brooklyn to send him as a representative.
Charles nods. Still, that's troubling. Regardless, I've said my piece. I've made my warning.
And I mean, you can, if he brings it up in conversation when he comes by next, I mean, I'm sure that you and he can talk about it.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. So, my question then, if you're not interested in the mimetic, the systematic mimetic liberation front that is being being suggested, I was originally going to be talking to you because of your mastery with pyretics. That's what they call it here. Yes, pyretics. That if you were capable of being one of the sorcerers.
Capable, willing, and I've already thought of a gift.
Wonderful. Then that saves me a whole lot of time. As of right now, it is myself, you, and Amber, as far as I know, throwing in the hat, and I'm under the consideration that there are a few, at least the solid members, but it sounds like there are others gunning for the position.
Shea, Misha, William.
So, Misha.
Alice puts her hand in front of her mouth, hiding her smile.
Yep.
I think with the four of us, we'd be fine.
Yes, indeed. Well, then perhaps I shall have to impress upon Misha to start focusing a bit more on that path, because I'm not really liking the other two options. So he sort of thinks for a moment. It's just like he shakes his head. Well, well, I'm afraid that I must have been a bit late with the information that I was going to express to you, as it seems that most of the information was given by Baku.
Points for trying.
Indeed. Um, then I guess I'll go on to my other matter. I fully intend for something to be done after the Baku situation is resolved. But I figure it's something that should at least be brought forward to you. So you had during our last conversation with Count Lejeune, we had brought up the topic of werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, were you still needing an explanation of what a werewolf is, or do you have an idea as of right now?
Well, I looked in a few books. People who turn into man beasts under the light of the full moon and are capable of being felled by silver, stakes through the heart, and okay, stakes through the heart. Doesn't everything die from that?
Well, I'm sure if someone would put a stake through my heart, I'd probably die too. But I guess there's something traditional with the tales. I don't know how much of that is entirely true. Um, but I can attest to the shape shifting man beasts. The Garu, as they prefer to be called, believe are we apparently, and I will admit I have only recently discovered this information within the last month. Apparently, we have had alliances with between our peoples before, old promises and compacts, and that date back before I guess the cities rose. But the Garu are calling in on those alliances, and as people that are well known for their word and their bonds, we are acquiescing. There is a war coming on their front that they believe will affect not only themselves but will also affect us. Entities from a not from here and not from the dreaming, but a space between is the best way I can describe it. They believe that these numbers are in the 500s. They don't expect this to be something that'll be like in the open streets. They're hoping for it to be somewhere that will be hidden away from prying eyes, so that those that are of the werewolf variety will be able to take their full form and do battle. The Kingdom of Apples has already sent 50 infantry into the field, and as the liaison between the Garu and our people, it was expressed to me that they are very grateful for the 50 infantry. However, they requested, if it was possible, for additional volunteers. I clarified that it was volunteers and that we would not force anyone to fight a war they did not feel comfortable fighting in. However, it was expressed that those that do volunteer in the war and, of course, survive will have favors owed, mainly in Grey World connections. However, those that need something for a little more of a extra natural bent can negotiate for it. But aside from that, those that do volunteer are offered favors. So, my question to you is if you, or if you know anyone else who might be interested in volunteering for a foreign war effort.
I assume as liaison, you could convince the Count that perhaps my duty to Queens would be better fulfilled assisting in this endeavor, should the need arise.
He nods at that. I could speak to the Count about that, yes.
Well, then, count me in, and I'll see. I know some individuals who are looking for a little bounty work.
He nods at that. Make sure you give me the list of names. Something I will mention is that those that are interested will be the liaison of the Garu wishes to personally vet these individuals. So please expect a meeting from Mr. Monday, as he calls himself. I'm sure it's not his real name, but it's better that way. Now, if I were to send the message along and he is interested, what would be the best place to have him meet? We are not letting them anywhere into freeholds.
Well, since I can't leave Queens anyways, um,
Well, your nights are Manhattans, he says with a smile.
true. Though that is problematic in its own way. I'd rather meet them during the day. I don't know if those stories are true, but cut down on any problems.
The one I met that decided to should give me a demonstration. It was the middle of the afternoon, and we were in a Winnebago, so I'm not sure, and it was something of a choice they made, so I'm not sure how much of it is actually tied with the moons.
All right. Well, that sounds great.
Does it though? Does it? Sorry.
How about we meet somewhere public but not too public? A
Hmm.
park?
I think we can swing that. I'll send messages between you, and
She
figure out a
stopped.
good place.
She stops actually mid-sip. No, I need to act like what I am. Um, how about a nice restaurant? Make a good impression, get a private room. That way we can talk privately, but public enough that no one's going to turn into a man monster or use a Zippo to set them on fire.
That seems more appropriate. Um, the out of character. I can't remember what the name of the place was, but Mr. Monday was kind enough to take me out to a particularly high end restaurant. So I think a baroness returning the favor would go the extra mile.
Sounds good. And I assume that they eat food.
Well, we were at a steakhouse, so I know they eat meat.
Well, that's something.
But aside from that, if they and the others I've met have shown that they're more than happy to eat a fish burger or really just about anything they can get their hands on. So I think they eat just fine. Well, at that point, I had half expected this conversation to last a lot longer, but unless there's something you have to ask of me, I think I have covered everything I have to inform you about and ask you about.
Well, there's a couple of things. One,
Hmm.
I'm looking for security for a concert I'm throwing in Queens.
Hmm.
It's going to be way more low key, and this time we're going to have independent security and no opening acts.
All right.
Um, I've inquired around, and so far the only two nightmare hunters I know are William and Hall.
Hmm.
You can see why I might be looking for some additional subtle Hall-like security.
He sort of nods. Hmm. I don't know of anyone who's particularly versed in those areas. However, that doesn't mean I can't pull some strings and see if I can't get something done. I would assume that the individuals who'd be fighting for security would be compensated in some way.
In the case of any attack, you keep what you kill if it's a Nervosa. In the case of Glamour, well, that's the whole point of the event. So anyone who comes or is invited on the guest list, which means that if they don't live in Queens, they wouldn't have been on the guest list in the first place. They would have access to an easy source of non-nightmare tainted, problematic glamour.
He sort of nods at that. I'll pass that along. I can't guarantee that they might not want to negotiate a bit more, but I have some individuals in mind who might be interested.
Considering the scarcity of resources right now, I'd figure full stomach, she says with a half smile.
Yes, that is indeed true. But like I said, it's I will pass the message along, and I will see if I get are there any volunteers interested for the security measure.
Adding to that, because I don't plan on doing anything quite as spectacular, I do plan on keeping the crowds a bit calm, if you catch my meaning. Just to make sure that we don't have any problems. And since that is hidden from sight, do you think that the Count would have any problem with that?
I don't think so. I will pass the. I will pass this. I will be passing this along to let him make sure that he is aware of the ongoing plans. I'd suggest you do so as well, just to make sure those that your bases are covered as well.
I was going to ask if you could hold off on that until Baroness Mariposa and myself had finished formalizing them, so we could pass them up in great detail. We were working together to make sure that all the plans were set before we presented them. We didn't want to give him anything half potatoed.
I understand. I will have to report something. I will then what I will do is I will report at the very least you have requested a measure of security, and that I will be looking for volunteers on that for that particular measure that you will compensate them for. And as of right now, the rest of the plans of what's going to be done with the concert is still an ongoing discussion between yourself and the Baroness Mariposa.
Excellent. There's one thing you might be able to do to assist in the security. So part of what I'm going to be doing on stage with my performance, getting the crowd happy, allowing it to be a place of free-flowing dreams. But, and there's always a but, we've been having problems with these nightmares. I know it takes a lot out of you, but I could use a little umph.
A little umph. You're asking for, he says, and in your true essence to come forward to bore. Not necessarily your Fey main, but more of your true self.
She gives a slight nod of her head.
I see. He goes and he thinks about that for a moment. That is a difficult task, but not impossible. It's usually easier having one's true name, but I'm not asking you to give that to me. But that is not something that can't be managed. I would have to do a bit of preparation, and I would have to ask for something in return for that. I'm not quite sure what yet. I will have to think on it. You don't have a concert date set yet, though. Is that correct?
Correct, which is why I didn't want to dive into negotiations with you until we had more information.
He sort of nods at that one.
Otherwise, I would have made an offer to go with it.
Very well. I will consider it. The question is, what aspects of yourself are you wishing to draw forth?
My ability to sing and perform for others.
He sort of nods at that one.
I wouldn't normally ask for assistance in this, but given the problems that we've been facing lately,
He nods at that. It will be if I agree to do this and the compensation is acceptable. Like I said, I have to consider this. It will probably be a performance that no one will ever forget. And he sort of thinks. Now, like I said, I'm gonna have to think on it. I haven't been as with everyone. No one's been sleeping well, and I'm not quite sure what I'd want yet. So, consider it a high probability, but we will negotiate at a later date.
that's only fair because we don't know what circumstances either of us will find ourselves in by that point in time.
For all we know, this whole issue with Mara and Baku will be resolved by then, and so
There will
maybe
be
we
no
want,
need for the degree of security.
or who knows how much further we need to go. But I will keep that in consideration. So, anything else you're needing of me or wish to pass along through me?
She pauses, puts a finger to her lip, thinking. Just that. I did what I could for Anye.
He raises an eyebrow.
William and I were talking about. Well, talking is a bad word. William was demanding to know where we had heard about what was happening in Brooklyn.
Hmm.
And you and Anye are where we heard it from. He did not seem happy to hear that.
I see. Unhappy that it was us that said it, or unhappy because it was true and we just were the ones to put it forward?
He called it um, filthy lies and
Hmm.
um, untruths, and then started besmirching the names of she that I had vouched for, who had decided to transfer over into Manhattan.
He nods at that.
And I stand by them. I stand by, well, not just them, but you. As I told him, you are, despite what he might think, everything you do that does benefit you is still benefiting all of us because you have the good of the county now and back then the baronies at heart.
But you were concerned about Anye.
Well, I mean, he calmed down, but his initial outburst, he said he was going to pound her into dust. He, after ranting for a while, he calmed down and said he wasn't going to do anything. He was just going to talk to you, as I had suggested, because, you know, pounding someone's squire into dust without talking to anyone up higher in the chain of command might be, looked upon as like bad.
Pound her to dust.
He was angry, but he's calmed down. Um, I just, I think he just wants to talk to you now.
Hmm. I see.
But
Well, thank you. for
Mhm.
letting me know.
And I trust him that he fully believes that he's found evidence that there's lies, but then again, I also believe you because you brought us evidence. So, um, once again, Sir Kararis, you have my trust. You have my thanks.
Well, that is definitely heartwarming. Thank you, Baroness. I'm afraid, unless there's anything else pressing you wish to tell me, that I must make sure that no one decides to ever pound anyone into the dust. That is under my care.
She gives him a curtsy. Absolutely. I'm sure everything will go over uh, swimmingly.
Hmm. Yes, I'm sure it will, he says as he makes his bow and he makes his way out. And there's that smile on his face, that far too tight smile, far too wide, as he's making his way. And he pulls out his phone. He dials a number. And he holds it up to his ear and he goes, Anye, I'm glad you answered. I think we're going to be expediting your training a bit. And with that, unless you have anything else to add,
No, that's a good ending point.
all right. And with that, we will end our scene. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.